On Ghana Connect, you have heard from the government, politicians, and a host of experts on the controversial Japa royalties deal. So tonight, we want to hear from you, the non-expert like myself. Have you made sense of this complex deal yet? And what opinion have you formed about it, with the finance minister insisting today that there is absolutely nothing that will stop the deal?
When will it happen? Absolutely nothing that will stop it. I mean, because of forward-leading statements, I can only assure you that we'll do it this year.
We will connect Ghanaians home and abroad on this very controversial matter. Remember, it's all about you. This deal is being done in your name. So let me hear for you tonight here on Ghana Connect. All your views plus a poll here on Ghana Connect after the break.
Hello there, hop in. Let's go on a ride to the countryside. Prepare for smoothness through Countryland every Sunday between 10 a.m. and midday. Tune in to Joy 99.7 FM for your favorite country music. Lock it in on your calendar. It's Countryland on Joy 99.7 FM. Simply call me Iggy.
Countryland on Joy 99.7 FM.
We give you nothing but the best. We stay above the rest. More quality, more affordability. Kingdom Boost and Stationery. Everybody's going to the one and only shop where customer satisfaction is a guarantee. Kingdom Boost and Stationery.
Oh yes, with our 30 days credit facility with no interest charge, free delivery services, and our free consultation on setting up your office, Kingdom Books and Stationery is unmatched in our delivery of quality and affordable office essentials, equipment, and furniture.
Experience world-class customer service in all our branches in Accra, Tema, Kumasi, Cape Coast, and Takoradi.
Call us on 0302-764-101
or visit our website at www.kingdomgh.com.
Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one-stop shop for all office essentials and stationery. Terms and conditions apply.
Puma Drinks, ready to add flavor to your life? Puma Drinks, bursting with so many flavors, you just can't have enough.
This is Kojuenchi, and I like to hang out with Doreen on the Cosmopolitan Mix because she's got what it takes.
Hi, I'm Doreen Andor, your Cosmopolitan chef here at Joy 99.7 FM. Come have brunch with me every weekday on the Cosmopolitan Mix from 10 till noon. I'll be cooking up a Cosmopolitan mix of great music, inspiration, and entertainment that will feed your mind, your body, and your soul. Make sure you're tuned in 10 till noon for the Cosmopolitan Mix.
The Cosmopolitan Mix.
You're live on Joy 99.7 FM. This is Ghana Connect. Happy to have you along for this particular ride. And I'm pretty sure in the last few weeks you've heard a lot from the experts, from the politicians, from government about the controversial Japa royalties deal. But remember, this is a deal that government says is doing in your name. And so we need to hear from you. I wonder how you've made sense of this very complex deal, and what opinion have you formed yet, if at all, about it, with the finance minister insisting today that there is absolutely nothing that will stop this particular deal. I mean, this is happening on the day when the tax justice network issued a pretty detailed report, simply concluding that government should terminate this deal with immediate effect because of all the challenges and concerns that it raises. And so They are asking that the government should put a stop to this deal whilst further work is done. But we heard from the finance minister today who was clear that that isn't going to happen on the back of the consultations that has happened with civil society. Now, wherever you are tonight, I want to hear from you. I want to get you to speak to me about what you're making of this particular deal. There's a poll that we put up today that in essence asks the question, should government proceed with the Ejapa royalties deal? And I've been hearing from you on the particular question. I'll tell you what the poll results are telling us very shortly here on Ghana Connect. Connecting with me in the studio is David Hudson. Is a graduate student at the University of Ghana, Legon. I'm grateful that you could join us. Hello, David.
Good evening.
Good evening to have you. I'm grateful that you could join us here on Ghana Connect. Also join us is Emmanuel Pembeje, is a writer and entrepreneur. Also joins us. Emmanuel, grateful to have you.
Great.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Nice one. I'm going to start by getting a sense of what you make of this whole deal very shortly. Nana Kofi Akwa will join us. He's the international photojournalist, a good friend of mine. It's been a while since we've spoken. He's going to join us also here on Ghana Connect. Kweku Segbefia is with Occupy Ghana. Of course, trying to get a sense of, how civil society may or may not be representing you out there, the everyday Ghanaian like myself. We'll also talk to Adam Senano who will join me. But I want to hear from you here on Ghana Connect. Send me a WhatsApp. 0244340437 and let's have a conversation. I'll come to the poll shortly, but I want to quickly bring in the Africa Center for Energy Policy's Executive Director who joins us on the telephone line, Benjamin Boache. Mr. Boache, thank you for your time here on Ghana Connect.
Thank you, Evans, for having me.
Today, in fact, we woke up to hear that the Tax Justice Network had written quite a detailed article analyzing the deal so far. The conclusion that they came to is an interesting conclusion. If you look at the issues that you had raised as well here in Ghana, they say first, the government of Ghana should urgently cancel and repudiate this entire deal and investigate all the parties involved for possible corruption and self-dealings. Go on, given the Attorney General's silence on this affair after having initially raised serious concerns, we won't hold our breath. They go on to state, says, there is good evidence that one should treat the transactional network of plunder as a unit of analysis, including from a legal and criminal perspective. Is Ejapa such a unit? We don't know, because we don't have all the details. International legal bodies where Ejapa touches down, and this includes London and Jersey, should open investigations into Ejapa, and if wrongdoing is found, prosecute accordingly. I know you've also been reading through this, and they've done some work also in going to Jersey and applying to the Jersey authorities to try and get some clarity on some of the individuals behind the deal. What do you make of the analysis that the Tax Justice Network is making of this? And their verdict essentially is that this is a bad deal, and it raises further risk for Ghana.
Yes, I think they are also raising similar questions that we have raised over the past weeks, trying to understand what government is trying to do and to satisfy ourselves that this is something that would benefit Ghana. Tax Justice Network is a group of experts who have been working on secrecy issues, tax evasion issues, corruption issues for so long. And, I see this as their preliminary work on this, piece of work. And it's quite instructive that a lot of the questions that we have been asking are repeated in the article that they have actually put out. And they even think that from the work that they have done, the structure of the agreement is unlike any that they have seen before. And I think this is where probably we need to pull the brakes for us to see how best we can better structure, royalty organization's strategy that really ensures that the people of Ghana would benefit from it in a more transparent way. And essentially that's what we've been trying to do here.
I mean, on the back of all this, I mean, this is now a global network of investigators and advocates, and of course the Tax Justice Network is putting its weight behind this. This has gone beyond the shores now, but we've heard from the finance minister today, in fact, speaking on Asasa Radio, say categorically that there's absolutely nothing that will stop this particular deal. And this is coming after he had met yourself and the other CSOs, 21 of you. What do you make of this latest position by the finance minister? He's standing his ground.
No, I think at this point, it's a very difficult position to be as a finance minister, and I wouldn't expect him to make an announcement at this point that the deal is cancelled or he's not going forward, because he's still interfacing with the market, and he wouldn't want to send signals otherwise to the market. So I appreciate where he's coming from. But the reality is that if the Ghanaian people don't want him to proceed, I think we have a way to send that signal much more strongly for him to pull the brakes. We can grant him those words for now, but I think as the conversation unfolds and we ask the questions, if they will be forthcoming with the answers and Ghanaians keep asking the questions, I think the consensus will be reached as to what direction we need to go as a country.
And I'm just curious. I mean, you sat in the meeting, you met him. To hear him say today that there's absolutely nothing that will stop him, was that meeting then one that you categorize as fruitful?
No, I think the same position was reiterated, and at the same time, he was open to dialogue and to listen and to share his perspective on, what he wants to do. But the questions have been asked, the documents have been asked of them, really to help us do better analysis of the issue and educate the Ghanaian people more, because essentially the people have been left out of this whole transaction. It's been between the elected, and we think that in this policy conversation, it goes beyond people who have just a 4-year mandate to everybody to really have a deeper conversation about whether we should sell our royalties or keep receiving them as they come, because it's one of the surest revenues that we do have, and the guarantee that we're going to maximize it on the stock market. We need more assurances on that, because it's not just by promising or saying it. The market determines what they want to do with their money. So we have to be assured and satisfy ourselves that it is really the best decision to take, which we are not convinced at this point that it is really the best option available to Ghana in terms of investing in its royalties and optimizing it.
I mean, Ben, I want you to stay with me. One of the things we're doing on Ghana Connect tonight is trying to gauge if the public is following. I mean, ordinary mere mortals like myself, I mean, because this is a pretty complex deal, we're trying to gauge whether this whole conversation, where is the public in all this? I've heard the experts. You are an expert on this matter as well, and others. I mean, but we want to gauge the pulse of the everyday Ghanaian on this big matter of the royalties on the minerals that we all own. And so stay with me. I mean, you are the expert. So shepherd us as you hear from everybody else who is non-expert, who probably would just have listened to you and the finance minister and may have come to a certain conclusion. Let me see if we could get that clearer sense from having this conversation. Of course, Ben will stay with me, and I want to quickly start with what you've been telling us on this particular deal on social media. Okay, Manuel joins me in the studio because we put up a poll on this, trying to gauge the polls where people stood on the matter. What question did we ask, Manuel?
Great. So, Evans, on Twitter, we had two polls. One on Joy News on TV, at Joy News on TV, and the other one at Joy 99.7 FM. It's a simple question. Should government proceed with the Ijapa royalties deal?
And it had two options.
Two options. Yes, they should proceed. No, they should not.
Okay, so let's start with the Joy News poll results. What did we learn? What are we learning from there?
Great. So poll went up at 5:27 p.m. and so far garnered 266 votes. Out of these votes, 44% of the people who have cast their votes say yes, they should proceed, and 56% say no, they should not proceed.
Okay.
Quite a number of comments here. This one is from the handle at Mabre Moadeng. Says, proceed to where? If they can sort out the illegalities brought to them by the CSOs, then good. At Wafa_Boache says, Ghana should begin to have a positive mindset. We should believe in them. At Hondi Faro says, please, what is Ijapa royalties?
But that is a big question, I guess I want to interrogate. Because there's a big conversation happening in Accra. And I'm just curious whether all these are friends in the villages, and across the country. But what a majority of us, do we really understand? And that question that Mr. Jimfi is asking is a very relevant one. We take it for granted that everybody understands this. It's possibly an elitist conversation that
definitely
the guys in the villages where the gold is actually mined have no clue about. So the question is from Mr. Jimfi on Twitter, says, what is a Ijapa royalties deal? Asking the question on the back of, this is the most topical issue, right? In the last, 3 weeks?
3 weeks.
It's a very legitimate question still. Somebody is not breaking it down enough to the ordinary people. I don't know whether it's civil society, I don't know whether it's government or the politicians. What more people saying on this?
Great. I could go quickly to the Joy FM Twitter.
Look, there's another question. Same question. Hondi, right?
Yes.
Hondi Faro.
Yes.
Asks the same question.
Says,
please, what is Ijapa royalties? That is beginning to give you a quick sense of what Let's talk about the Joy 997 poll we did. And so, just to clarify, for the Joy News page, 44% says yes, government should go ahead. 56% said no, they should not. What about the Joy FM page?
Great. So, Joy FM page, same question: should the government proceed with the Ijapa royalties deal? Same options: yes, they should proceed. No, they should not proceed. So it went up at 5:24 p.m. And we've gotten 489 votes. Out of these, 62% say no, they should not, and 38% say yes, they should. And so I'll quickly run you through a number of the comments that are coming through right about now. This one is from at Boachewa_N. Says they should. The government mustn't always rely on loans to finance its project.
And there's also Akwesi Frimpon.
Great. Just go into that.
Yes. That's an interesting one also.
Says that we should understand the deal first, because most people don't understand it, but voting.
Okay, and that's the same point we were raising earlier with the Joy News poll. First, understand the deal before you vote. But of course, people are already made the decisions in your head. But the question is whether you understand that position you've been taking is informed. A good point. One more.
Great. This one is from at Pablo_Singso. Says that Ghanaians be non-partisan for once. They are mortgaging our future generations' royalties away for only one family and friends. That's the comment from at Pablo_Singso.
Yeah, look at Big J. Big J Ogomi.
So Big J says, I don't even know what it's all about. I don't have either answers. And so I'm sure Big Joe didn't cast his vote. He went down to the comments and says that he doesn't know what the deal is about, and so he's unable to decide which answer.
Also look at L. Rootsman Sargent.
Great. So getting to L. Rootsman Sargent, it says that what is this Ijapa about? And just on the same thing we've been talking about, the people asking for clarity on the deal.
Okay. Just a quick recap then. So on the Joy FM page, the question, should the government go ahead with the deal? 62% says no, they should not. 38% says yes, they should. Thank you, Manuel. I have with me in the studio David, who is a graduate student, University of Ghana. Emmanuel Ampemeje, writer and entrepreneur. Nana Kofi Akwa, international photo journalist, will join us shortly. We have Benjamin Boachi. He's the expert in this conversation. Also on the line with me. We're joined by a few of our friends. And you, of course, wherever you are, please join me. David, where do you stand on that question? I'm curious. Where do you stand on that question of should the government go ahead or not?
Personally, I think that it's quite a good deal based on the intuition behind it. As an upcoming finance student at University of Ghana Business School, we did something called lease financing, and lease financing enables people or entities to go in for money in able to do developmental projects or anything they want to do, use the money to do. So the intent is right. I however think that there are a few issues that needs to be ironed out before we can proceed with it.
So good initial comments. You say government should go ahead because it's good for us. Okay. Emmanuel Ampemeje is a writer and entrepreneur. Have you written about this yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
Yeah, I think maybe after this conversation,
you might.
I may.
Okay. I mean, so tell me, where do you stand on that question? Should they or shouldn't they?
I think that listening to both parties, the MPP has raised lots of good concerns, and the NDC as well. But then the last time I think I was listening to the Honorable Yaboamia Samoa, who says that the NDC actually tried to do this in 2010, but couldn't do finish up the processes. So the MPP has come to do execute it. I think that critically looking at it as a layman, as a normal Ghanaian and as a young student, I would think that looking at what the government intends to do with the revenues to be raised, they actually intend to invest in the educational sector, health, and other critical sectors of the economy. So looking at this, if that is the good intentions of the government, and at the end of the day, it's actually no go. Those revenues the funds are not going to be embezzled. I think that looking critically at the deal, it is a good deal, and we must continue.
So you remember the word that you used, looking critically at the deal. I'm going to come back and test how critically have you looked at it before you arrive at that, whether that position you've arrived is informed or not, because that is the key thing we're trying to gauge tonight. Joining me via Zoom tonight is of course, the man himself, Nana Kofi Akwa. Hello, Nana. Hello, Nana. And I hope you've not.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, good evening. Great to have you. Great to have you. It's been. Hey, have our paths crossed this year? Corona hasn't made it possible, has it?
No, we haven't. I haven't seen you the whole of this year.
Oh goodness, I need to come to the Republic.
You're always welcome, my brother. Well, good to hear your voice.
Good to hear you too. I mean, what's a note to talk on? I mean, tell me about this Japa deal. I don't know where you stand on this, on the question of whether the government should proceed or not. I mean, have you formed an opinion yet?
I think that the idea behind it is laudable. The finance wisdom behind the idea is laudable. But everything about the execution of it raises red flags. And in view of that, I personally am hesitant in saying it should go ahead. I think that the government shouldn't get too comfortable with people always saying friends and family, friends and family, friends and family. I mean, politics shouldn't become Kokofu football. And I may be totally wrong, but as an ordinary Ghanaian, when I listen to the stories and I read all these articles and listen to radio, this is the perception I get. And I feel that you can't build a good structure on a wrong foundation. So if those issues surrounding how it was even drafted in the first place and who the key players are and where it is being set up at, if these questions can't be very, very honestly and very clearly answered, we are mortgaging our future away. But in terms of the principle of what the idea, if everything was being done right and very cleanly, then I definitely would vote for it.
But as it stands now, you say don't proceed.
Yes.
So that's an interesting one. At least you've sort of broken down the issues for me. I still have Ben with me, my resident expert. I'll come to him shortly. So here we have it. I mean, David and Emmanuel say, well, proceed. And Nana says, do not, because of the questions around the execution of it all. But Emmanuel, you say you looking at the deal critically. Your conclusion is that government should proceed. What is the Japa royalties deal?
Okay, so from the letter that I've read, there is a deal that the government actually, seek to raise revenues from the London Stock Exchange and also from the Ghana Stock Exchange as well. So I critically most of the times give an example.
Okay, so here's the thing though. They are going to list it only on the London Stock Exchange.
London Stock Exchange.
Yes.
Ghana Stock Exchange.
No. Ghana Stock Exchange doesn't come out.
Okay.
They're listing on the London Stock Exchange.
Okay.
Right. I mean, so that's we are now testing what you understood by the thing, but you've come to a conclusion already. Remember that. Based on the impression that.
Yeah, so
wait, let me check this before with the expert. Hello, Ben.
Hi, everyone.
Ben, does the Ghana Stock Exchange come in at all, or this is purely a London Stock Exchange thing? I think that's what it is, right?
I think there is intention to list on the Ghana Stock Exchange as well, but I mean it remains to be told how they will structure it for the initial offering to also come to Ghana. So, but those are subsequent conversations. But listening to the conversation we had with people on the other line, I feel even the need for us to deepen the conversation and let people understand what decision government is taking, so that based on that information and understanding, opinions could be formed much more reasonably. I think there's a bit of a misunderstanding of what government is trying to do, so people are on the fence. They're not sure whether to support it or not. And we can also pick it up as a society to now begin to engage the citizens much deeper on what specific issues we are presented with, But to really try to, in a minute, crash this whole conversation is really a point of saying that we are giving the royalty flows that we are getting from our gold to a company to hold on our behalf and invest. But before it even does that, we are mandating the company to sell half of the future flows so that we can get revenues now for development. And that is where we have started interrogating why that decision, trying to understand what we actually want with the 49%, up to 49%, and whether waiting to receive your cash flows makes more sense than going for a lump sum now. And that's where the question about how you evaluated it comes in. And even hearing the finance minister today even gets me much more worried, because if you had in the past week, we've been talking about how the valuation of the 1 billion came about, and we have been told consistently that that is not what we are taking to the market. But today I'm hearing that what the market would offer will range between 0.6 to 3.2 of net asset value. The fundamental question here then is the finance minister willing to accept 0.6 of the valuation that we think is grossly undervalued? So what that means is that he could come home with $300 million for our 49% interest in our future cash flows. And then you begin to ask the question, how much are we expecting to receive in 2020, 2021, and beyond? Last year, the royalty value we got was about $200 million. This year, because prices have gone up, gold prices have gone up, and production is ramping up because the companies want to catch the high price, we could hit excess of $300 million. So if you go to the market with an expectation of 0.6 to 3.2 of your undervalued 1.1 billion, you could even sell your 49 for the value that you could get in 2021. So it's a big conversation for us to have to make sure that we are actually generating value and not gambling with our royalties.
Our royalties. And we stay with me, Ben. Let me come back to Emmanuel, who was making the initial point, which I asked for clarity on. So, Emmanuel, that's Ben. Civil society, we know, have a position on this already. They've engaged in government. Your position is opposed to theirs because you think government should still go ahead because it's a good thing. You were telling me your understanding of what the Japa royalties do. I guess I want to understand what informed your conclusion that government should go ahead. Now that he's explained that in each government's intention now, as they've communicated, is London Stock Exchange, but there's a future intention to also do the Ghana Stock Exchange. But of course, we know Japan is going to be listed on the London Stock Exchange. Yes, go ahead.
So my initial decision to support that we should go on with
the Japa deal.
The Japa deal is the fact that the government has made known the good intentions behind this deal. I mean, if you are a student, you actually get to know that at the end of the day, the revenues to be gotten from this deal would be invested in education, like what we're seeing currently. If at the end of the day, those revenues are actually going to be invested in health, so that my grandmother in the village could get access to good health, then we know that, okay, so the good intentions of the government behind the Ejapa deal has been executed. So the initial good intentions of this government, the only problem that I find is the communication of this.
Okay.
Because if I have followed the argument a bit, you only hear the other side saying that, okay, there is conflict of interest. There's conflict of interest. And the other side also comes in to defend that, okay, this person qualifies for the job. This person qualifies to become the legal advisor to the deal. This person qualifies to become the CEO and therefore should be given the nod to. But then I feel that the communication as to the good intentions of the deal, I think many Ghanaians actually
I think it's missing in the whole conversation.
So as a youth, what is the revenue that is going to be gotten from Ejapa going to support this manifesto, going to support the manifesto of the ruling government concerning the youth, going to support the manifesto of the NDC concerning the youth, right? So I think as a layperson, these are the critical issues that I may have to look at.
Okay.
That at the end of the day, as the deal not going to yield any debts, to be added to the debt stock, because you actually find out that critically, one of our challenges is the fact that our debt stock is also on the rise. So if the government is going to do this whole transaction, of which it is a business transaction, and in business, I mean, like, you are also considering the profit and the losses. So with the profit and the losses, is the government not going to make losses? Are they going to make profit as they have stated, and as they have put forward that, okay, there's an initial $500 million
dollars.
This $500 million, with good examination, what are they going to use the money for?
What you talked about earlier about what they said they would do.
Yes. So I think that the all-knowing neutrals, as Gamma Wahine says, I think should also critically look at this. That
I don't think they'll even say they are neutrals. I mean, we know because they have a position on the matter. So
they have stated that
they have a position, so they can't be neutral. I mean,
so now we are clear on that. So I think that the $500 million that we are going to get, the investment into the stated sectors of the economy that they are saying, are they actually going to use it for? What are we going to benefit as Ghanaian, as my mom who sells in Makola, or as my dad who sells in Abosokai? What is that reflect? I mean, like, what is it going to reflect? So the reflection of.
You're an entrepreneur.
Yes.
Right. What are you into?
So I do marketing and communication on campuses.
Campuses. Okay.
Yes,
so, but maybe then you should narrow it to yourself. I mean, the Makola is fantastic, but you're also an entrepreneur. So what is in it for you? That's the question you're asking.
Yeah.
What is in this deal for you, the citizen?
For me, the citizen, and as a young person that I am aspiring.
That's a very good question, actually, because I don't think that's a question that we've asked enough in the conversation. David, I'll come to you. Okay, I'll come to you, but let me go to Nana Kofi-Akwa. Nana, I mean, tell me, what do you make of that question? I don't know whether you've thought about it too. What is in it for you? Because remember that this is about gold, right? Minerals, and me and you, we all own it. It's because it's on our land. It's there. By virtue that it's in the ground, me and you own it. So if the government is going to do a deal like this, the question about what is in it for me, I'm personalizing it, is such an important one. I don't know whether you've asked it and what your thoughts are.
Yes, but Evans, thanks for that question. If you actually examine that question critically, the probable answer is actually nothing. You know, the gold in the ground, it's already been sold. Ghana, we claim, you know, the gold in our grounds, they are already owned by other people. We are just looking at the royalties. This whole debate, this Ejapa thing, is about the royalties, not the ownership of the gold. So, and if you look at how we spend money on projects, and when you look at the figures that are quoted, all the millions of dollars that go into tiny projects, so you look at $500 million and you ask yourself, what can be achieved with $500 million? At this, you know, there are certain types of charcoal you buy and they burn so quickly, you know, and sometimes you look at how the prices, the value that is placed on certain projects. And it's like using charcoal that burns very, very quickly. So you go through a sack of dollars very quickly for very, very little things. So to be honest, I have asked that question, and I don't see anything in it for me as a Ghanaian. All I am hoping is that, especially when people may say, "Oh, this person has that position because they are qualified," but when it comes to fighting nepotism, it is not about qualified or not being qualified. It's about the fact that all the intelligent people in Ghana don't come from one tribe or one family. You know, it will be preposterous to think that all the super intelligent, super most qualified people all belong to one particular tribe or one particular family or one particular group. No, they don't. You know, all of us as Ghanaians, right from Accra to Paga, and all the, you know, all of us are equally blessed and equally intelligent. And so, if you say you are designing something that is for all Ghanaians, not only must you not give it an Akan name, because not all Ghanaians are Akan speaking, but even more importantly, the structuring must reflect that truly this is for all Ghanaians. You know, so because you can't have only a few people from a particular family or tribe running it, and you tell me it is for all of us. Obviously, it isn't. So I have asked that question, and based on the little I have read on paper, I'm not an expert on this at all, but from the little I have read and the little I have seen, it is extremely difficult to convince me that there is anything in this deal for me or for my family.
But there's a follow-up question before I come to David. If your initial argument is, listen, the gold in the ground, I mean, it's gone already. People already own it before even dug out. But if that's the case, and government says for one, they're going to get an upfront Fidi Gadochi money of 500 million that you can see hit an account, and they can take and use to do projects. Isn't that then, I guess, a better alternative to what the status quo has been, where the royalties come in bits and pieces over a year or whatever, and then once it hits the funds that we set it up for, it sort of disappears into this bottomless black hole, and then we don't see, we can't really account for it. But now 500 million, we can all see if it hits, and then we can track government to spend it. Well, what do you make of that argument also that I've heard sometime this week?
Yes, Evans, that's why the first question you asked me, I answered and said, on paper, if you look at the idea itself, is a good idea. Remember, that was my very initial remark.
Yes.
That the idea was totally a brilliant idea. But the execution of it, the whole execution of it, raises too many questions for me. And that is where I have a problem. If it is an idea that is purely intended for all Ghanaians to benefit, then the structuring of it, even how people apply for certain positions and they gain it, all of that has to be totally transparent. All of us should have seen the vacancy, and all of us who feel qualified should have applied. You know, nothing should have been shrouded in secrecy and just jumped on us. You know, so that's why I'm saying, as for the idea itself, I can't fault it. I think it is brilliant. The idea is, I mean, what has been done in Saudi Arabia and some of these countries with solid resources and oil and all that, it's not very different in many ways. It is not that different. So the idea, I think, is a brilliant idea. But everything about the execution of it,
now,
for me,
it's almost as if you knew that the president was going to respond to you. Just as we've been talking about one tribe and nepotism, raising issues of this nature with the deal. I've just been alerted by my presidential correspondent that just a couple of hours back, the president has been speaking about this particular concern of yours. I want you to listen to the president address this issue you've raised and tell me whether you are convinced. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Emmanuel, you also raised the same concern about the qualification of the people who are going to manage the thing. The president has been speaking about this. Just listen briefly to what the president says about the concerns.
Archbishop, this name calling and insulting seems to be a feature of Ghanaian public life, which is. But sometimes we would hope that when things come out, people would comment on them. The comment made by my opponent, Achim Sakawa people. I've not heard any public figure in this country, independent, yourselves or anybody, comment on it. It's completely unacceptable. If I was to get up to make a comment about Northerners or Gunchas, you can imagine the uproar that would be in the country. Presidential candidate, a former president of Ghana, you can call a group of Ghanaians Sakawa people, and it involves the group for which the sitting president comes, and that comment goes without, that statement goes without comment. And at the same time, we hear these statements. Let's all try and bring the politics of insults to an end, etc., etc. Occasions are given where specific comments can be made. Nothing happens. And then it's lost. It's lost in the generalities. We need to focus on this matter in an even-handed way. I get the impression that because of the unfortunate, in some ways, authoritarian origins of our state in its area, where it was considered dangerous to criticize government, the pendulum has now swung the other way, where government is the only group you can criticize. If you criticize government, no matter what you say, is legitimate. If government was to respond, that's somehow illegitimate. Media freedom is interpreted as meaning the freedom to criticize others, but you can't criticize the press.
Very interesting thoughts there about he talks about the Achim thing that those people have raised. It came up again in the Japan thing, not necessarily talking about Japan now, but there's a broader concern that has been raised. He was speaking with the Catholic Bishops' Conference there. So David, let's come back to you. So the question about what is in it for me, but also the question about nepotism that has come up. Does it bother you at all that all these concerns they raise about the people who are involved, the politically exposed individuals? I mean, you say it's a good deal. Go ahead, right? Does any of that bother you as a citizen?
First of all, I would want to say that it's a good deal. Go ahead, but iron out the challenges that people are having, so that when it goes out, like in Parliament to be passed, we won't have any tensions in Parliament as we are having now. That's the first thing I want to say. And for the people fronting the deal, they are overly qualified to handle those positions. But here's a case where we are looking at a breach in corporate governance strategies, where they have to be accountable. If they are all related, who is going to check each other? Even in government, the executive has a check, that's the legislature and the judiciary. So even though they are overly confident and qualified for that job, it brings a lot of questions that there's something fishy going on. And that's what we, the citizens, are having a problem with. We are not saying they are not qualified for that position that they hold or that they can't do their job. No one is saying that. But it brings about a bit of fishiness, and everybody would think that it's going to benefit them. Also, they say the CEO and all those board members are not supposed to be removed from office, even if they are not performing well. And you can quite remember 2 years ago when the banks collapsed, topical issue was corporate governance practices. No checks were going on. So that means we have leveraged our gold out to people to sell it anyhow. They don't need to come to parliament for approval, do what they want to do with it. Even if they are not making profit or meeting the end of the bargain, you can't do anything to them. And it's unfair to every Ghanaian whose forefathers fought to secure this country for us. So if that thing could be revised, open up the process, let everybody who feels he's qualified apply for all the various positions, board members, the CEO, the legal team, and all those things. Then we know that, okay, at least we made an effort to include everybody. They didn't show up or they showed up. They didn't get qualified or they qualified. But if you don't give that room, the noise around it doesn't speak well of the whole deal. And that's when it begins to sink.
Okay, I get it. I mean, so in spite of the noise, but you've sort of cut through the clutter and went straight to the issue about, is it because you believe this is good for you as an individual? I mean, if you look at it as a citizen, an individual citizen, what's your personal take from this? How do you see this benefiting you as an individual?
The ruling government has listed a number of things they want to use the money to do.
Schools, hospitals,
yes, and as a student,
infrastructure.
Schooling is one of my priorities. So if truly they are able to stick to their promise and use it for schooling, I stand to benefit. But if they do otherwise, then it will just be like any of the other loans that we've been going for, and no one sees the effect of it.
Let me take a quick comment from Ben. Ben, you still with me?
Yes, I'm here.
Ben, the question about about what's in it for us, right? You've had the answers to this. There are many views to this, but if you look at the intention, there seems to be an applauding of it. From where you sit, are the expert reading the document? Isn't it good for us? At least if you look at the monetary terms and what is going to come back, compared to how we've managed and used the royalties in the past.
No, I think for the management and the use of royalties in the past, it's well within the control of government to change how we have used royalties.
Ben, forgive me, there's feedback. I'm pretty sure you are listening to us on the radio. If you could turn it down so that.
No, I'm not.
You're not. Okay, there must be somebody else who's maybe interfering with that. Let's rectify that so we bring you in. In the meantime, Kweku Segbefia with Occupy Ghana and Adam Senanu with the Citizens Movement Against Corruption are also connecting with me via Zoom. Hello, Adam and Kweku.
Hi. Hello.
Hey,
how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Kweku, let me start with you. So, where do you stand on this as of tonight? Has your needle swing debate moved slightly, and where is it tilting tonight?
So I read the Ejapadiu, 140 pages long, and I mean, what are the facts? The facts are that 10% of our carried interest in all gold production. That's how much we earn from gold for doing absolutely nothing. Then we raise 35% of that income as income tax. And then there are royalties ranging from 3% to 5%. These are the facts, okay? So it means then that the monies we get from these mining companies and our mining assets only come in trickles. And this is us using only about perhaps 15 to 16 of the very best mining companies, all right? So this is what we get. And every time based on this, we go for loans of assorted interest rates just to keep our economy running and to provide infrastructure and to do everything that we do with money in this country. So when this happens, then of course the fear is that you are getting these monies in tiny little drips, never enough for substantial investment in the economy. And clearly it hasn't worked, because for every major infrastructural development we need to do as a country, we need to go out and borrow. So then, and that's why a lot of people have asked, we've got all these resources, why are we always heavily indebted? And obviously because we've not figured out what to do in order to make the most out of these things that we believe we can count on. So reading through the whole thing, we've got two options. We can continue with debts and always pick up loans that come and manage them. And of course, for those
Hello, Kweku. Kweku's internet is not holding up, but he was getting to something there. Definitely get him back up, and so we could hear his final thoughts, talking about the two alternatives we had to approach. But Adam, you're with me, right?
Yes, I am.
Adam, so I don't know whether you pick up where you pick the scent of what where Kweku's going. Hi, Kweku.
Kweku is back.
Yes, sorry.
Kweku, the internet failed you. It happens. You were saying that you had two alternatives. You mentioned the first one, continue to embedding yourself with debt, and then the second is what?
It's equity, finding out a way to offload that debt in a way that doesn't give you troubles when gold prices on the market, for example, fall, or when you have more expenditure than your budget can take. And as you very well know, there's a lot of theories about debt versus equity, where you realize that the more equity people get involved in, the easier it is, because if gold prices hit a downturn, government will not be able to meet its obligations. And that's why we always have mid-year budget reviews, because our expectations always fall short. Our revenues always fall short of the expectations.
Such as we are seeing with the oil, right? I mean, oil plunged,
exactly.
and then we just lost out a bit.
Absolutely, yeah, almost to the point where barrels were selling at $0. You understand? And so, how then do you? And your people are also expecting the same kind of services they're expecting from you. The other thing, of course, is that people aren't going to take excuses, and the infrastructure deficit needs to be bridged every time. And so, this is really what it is. So, when I read the document, I get that what government plans to do, put that up in such a way that you will receive more. And then whatever you receive from the sale of shares upfront, and hopefully use and invest it prudently and well. So it's the same money. You would have gone for a loan at a certain kind of interest to do the infrastructure anyway. But this time around, instead of going at it and not even sure whether you will get it from India or you'll get it from China, you have your own vehicle set up to make that possible. And then in the same way, apply it even more meaningfully to infrastructure development or whatever government needs to do. So when you put it all together, there's no doubt in our mind that this is a good deal. There may be other issues involved with this deal that raise questions.
Yeah, okay, hold on there. I mean, that is, I saw your analysis that led to that conclusion. Let me bounce it back off Adam Senano, because Adam's group, Adam, your group, you're part of the 21 CSOs with a statement that government should suspend the deal, correct?
Correct.
Okay, let me ask you, you've listened to Kweku. Does his position convince you?
Well, no, it doesn't convince me. I think that Kweku is very enamored with the outcome and is not leaning towards proceeding by process. I don't think that any of us would deny that there is innovation in the approach that the government chose. But the risk is that when you don't go through process, then the legitimacy of anything you do is called into question, and you lose any dividends that you expect to get out of it. So let's proceed by process. These are constitutional obligations of the state. In the principal agent concept, we, the citizens, are the principals. We have given our assets in trust for a period to some agents. If I give you my taxi to use, you don't suddenly decide how that taxi will be used, at which point and where you are going to, maybe a Galamsey zone, which is not good enough. You need to come back to me, let's have a discussion, and then we will actually validate and confirm and authorize you to go in a particular way. I don't think that the process of consultation was properly done, and that's why we found ourselves here. But it does not mean that ultimately, with proper consultation, we will not still go ahead with it. So yes, there is an outcome that sounds and seems good. We have issues with valuation. We have raised them. We have issues with potential inside trading, nepotism as well, which are substantive because not enough people heard about the request for people to apply to jobs, etc. And those are fundamental things that must be addressed so that the people of Ghana own the process, own the policies, own the outcomes, and we are comfortable with what we get at the end of the day.
Well, very interesting thoughts. Kweku, you want to chip in for 60 seconds, and I can bring in Ben for another 60 seconds.
Yes, I want to. And whilst clearly I'm not a lawyer, I've read instances where suits and issues are even raised in court, not properly placed, that the court in its wisdom, for example, has deemed that the substantive issue is more important than the errors and the processes involved in as it were laying those issues. And sometimes, the issues are allowed to go. Yes, there are, because clearly this deal was cooked by humans. And so clearly there will be those issues. But you see, what we've been doing is grabbing a lot of the shadow whilst we leave the substance. And clearly, and with all that is hoping on, it's a lot of substance that's been thrown out there and making the whole deal look bad. If we are all agreed that this is innovative, this is amazing, how then do we cure the mischief or the errors that we see in it?
But that question you asked is that last question you asked is important. Okay, so we agree, if we all agree that the end game is good, your question is how do we deal with the process challenges so that we arrive at that end?
Without destroying an innately good project or deal. That's really what
So you actually believe that the way the CSOs are taking this may destroy the actual deal that then will not deliver on the outcomes that you say is good?
To the contrary, and of course tying that into Elizabeth Tohine's article, and unfortunately I got in too late to come to that discussion. I applaud. It's our right as CSOs to say what we want to say in the most biting way possible, and I won't take that away from us at all. And you know very well that of the most biting ones, me and Occupy Ghana and some of my team have been extremely critical of government on some of these things. So yes, that's within our proverbial right. Okay, but the risk here is doing so because when you do it in an all guns blazing, for example, then it makes something that is inherently good look very bad.
Okay, good exchange of thought on this, and this is really what healthy democracies do. Adam, another quick 60 seconds.
Well, I think that unfortunately we have had too many governments where good things are made bad simply by not following process. And I don't understand why we don't seem to have learned that lesson. The good people of this country just expect that the right thing will be done. It doesn't look good when it appears that one group of people are taking everything to themselves. So we have 3 sets of lawyers for something that we already are paying the Attorney General to do. Let's not dismiss these things. And let's not just address them because of Ijapa. Let's address them so that all other such things, we don't spend time having to come back
to the same issues. Let me quickly bring in Ben. Hello, Ben.
Hi.
Ben, you've heard what the debate is so far. The very varied views they express. I know your position on this, but in 60 seconds, based on everything else you've heard, what will be your conclusion from this? Because I'm getting a sense, at least on 4 of our guests, 3 of them mere mortals like myself, who haven't read much, that the end game definitely good. We have to fix the the process challenges. What would you say about that going forward in briefly 60 seconds?
No, I think what I'm hearing really calls for deeper conversation so that we can debate the substance of the issue. When you hear somebody say that it looks good or it is good, they tell you about some optimistic possibilities, but what is really informing those optimism? And those are the questions that we have been raising as civil society. And that is why we stayed with the questions about valuation and truthful about it's something empirical, and therefore when you start investing, you're going to get more return. How are you going to achieve that? Those are the questions that we are actually asking for, taking no risk revenue and going to risk it in jeopardy. We need to ask the questions to be able to appreciate what government is actually thinking. And from what we're seeing, there is every possibility that we are not seeing it the way it looks actually on. For example, as we said, last year 200 million, this year it could be $300 million. So if you're going to the market only for 500 million to sell half of the asset for the rest of his life, we need to really interrogate what is really going into that kind of decision for you to assume that that is the best possible option for Ghana. We see that there is every attempt to avoid adding to our debt, which also calls for another conversation as to how do we do that as a country without necessarily sacrificing the royalties, which has been the most stable contribution from the mining sector, to the budget.
Thank you very much, Ben. Let me bring in Nana Kofi Akwa, Emmanuel, and David, mere mortals like ourselves. Nana, let me bring you in, international photojournalist. As a citizen, what outcome are you looking for now? What would you want to see? What do you want your government to do now about this deal, knowing all that you've heard and read and discussed on the show? What do you want? What is it? What should the end game look like for you?
Thank you, Evans. I was very heartbroken hearing the president. You could tell the heartbreak in his voice when he was talking about they being called Achim, Sakawa, Mafia, and all that. I think that was unfortunate and very disrespectful. But in trying to answer that question, they also need to ask themselves what led to that. And I feel that if the government would put measures in place to win our trust and assure us that when they think of development and they think of big ideas, they think inclusivity, they think of all Ghanaians. I think if they would take steps to assure us that they have all of us in mind when these ideas come up, I think that will be very, very helpful, not just for themselves, but for all of us as a nation. There is no smoke without fire. And I feel that we have to discourage the insulting politics, the bad language. It's totally unfortunate. I feel whoever said that should apologize and retract. But more importantly, going forward, they have to make us believe that they are for all Ghanaians and not for a tribe or a family. I would appreciate that if we get to that place.
Fantastic. And 30 seconds to you, David, and then Emmanuel. Yes. What do you want to see now? What do you want to see? What is it? If you meet the finance minister today about this deal, what would you tell him in 30 seconds?
As the listening government they claim to be, they should listen to the cries of the people they are serving and then do the needful. The old adage says that things done half and half are never done well. So they should make sure that they do the right thing and do it well so that we can all benefit from it.
So my last stand is the fact that I feel and I believe that this is a very good deal. Just that, we need to iron out some of the things that have been pointed out by the CSOs. But, lastly, I think I would want to say that whether NPP or NDC, what every young Ghanaian should also learn is, to learn from the Oforiatas and the Osafo Malfos, to also seek for very good qualification so that when we get these opportunities, it doesn't pass by.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, David, Emmanuel, Nana, Kofi, Sebafia Adam, and of course you out there. Let me bring in Emmanuel as we wrap. Emmanuel, share with me quickly what else people are saying on our pages as a wrap up.
Great. So Evans, I'll take you through a few of the WhatsApp messages that have come through this evening. This one says, please tell the finance minister that the only way to stop the Japan deal is that with the help of God, 7th December, we'll vote them out. We see from Koforia sends that one. This one is from Papa Ansan from Teshinungwa State, says, good evening, Evans. The Japan deal is very shameless, and I don't blame the finance minister for saying that the deal will still go on. How much money will this deal fetch us as a country, looking at how the mining communities are suffering in terms of them not getting their families to attend good schools, hospital roads, and even get potable water to drink? And if men of conscience go ahead to do the unconscionable thing, as pointed out by the Attorney General, then men are no more conscionable. But ... doesn't end. An old boy from Cove Town sends that one. And finally, as a truly quote-unquote neutral party, he should just lay the facts bare and leave the decision to the ordinary people.
I mean, that's a good note to end Ghana Connect, because that's the point of we're trying to do tonight. Let the ordinary people decide, and because this is India, they've been done in their name. The boys are taking over here on Joy 99.7 FM.
Thank you for the good political chat. Nana Kofi, is that the same Nana Kofi from Twitter then?
Oh yes, the same.
The COVID analyst.
Oh no, this is the international photojournalist Nana Kofi Akwa and blogger.
Oh, all right, NK Akwa.
Yes.
I think it's verified on Facebook and everywhere. Oh, Nana Kofi, hi. I'm a huge fan of your work. I don't know. Okay, I think.